think we can get started. Order to know.
Okay.
Welcome to the subcommittee of the Springfield City Council, the Audit Subcommittee. It is now 4:02 on April 13th, and the two items for discussion are the presentation and discussion of a citywide payroll audit, and then the second item is a presentation and discussion of the Office of Internal Audit Status Report on the FY23 audit plan. Young, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you have at it, sir.
Thank you.
I don't believe we're joined by any counselors here, right? Am I looking at that correctly? It's just us.
Just us. So
I'll let you proceed, sir.
all right, I'll be brief as possible. So I'll start off with the payroll report, and that way, after the payroll presentation and discussion, I'll have Angela Wang, who is the payroll director, leave, and we can move on to the second item on the agenda, which is the activities update. So let me share my screen, and I'll go with show you the payroll audit report. Wanted to first thank Angela and her department for their cooperation during this long audit. Payroll is a huge transaction process. It affects every department in the city. It is the city's and school departments' largest process. It affects every department. And Angela and her staff do a great job in ensuring that payroll gets processed timely. If it doesn't, you're going to hear about it. It's just people need to get paid, and they do a great job in making sure that payroll is processed timely and accurately. So why do we do this audit? We did this audit because it was on our audit plan. And our objectives for this audit was to assess the internal controls at the payroll department to ensure that payroll transactions were properly authorized and processed accurately and completely. So the scope of our audit included both the city and school department, and we looked at payroll transactions occurring in FY22. So I want to point your attention to background on page 4. So this is the payroll cycle. I mean, every company, every entity has a payroll cycle. So I'm going to briefly describe our payroll process and cycle. So you start off with time entry. People are required to record their time, and it's usually done in our time entry system, Kronos. And these are done by the employees. Then once time entry is entered into the system, you need the managers to approve them. You want to make sure that people are working and the time that they recorded on their timesheet is accurate. Then it gets imported into Munis for the payroll department to analyze, making sure the entries look correct and look for discrepancies for them to address along with the departments. Then you have, once that's done, you have payroll working with the controllers and the treasurers to make sure to record the accounting entries prior to payroll being finalized for payment. So, and then that's pretty much the process. So in terms of dollar figures, we're looking at citywide, for city side, it's about 190 million for payroll costs for about 1,660 full-time equivalents. And on the school side, it's even larger. It's about 409 million in personnel costs for about slightly less than 5,000 full-time equivalents. So the payroll department has a staff of 8 full-time employees, and the payroll department is not a city department. They are a school department, and they have a service level agreement with the city to process our payroll. So moving on to page 5, I just want to highlight that we did make a slight change in our report. in that we color-coded our recommendations to provide a roadmap for management so that it can focus on those high and moderate recommendations to implement first. So in general, I want to say that the payroll, as I mentioned, the payroll department does a good job in processing payroll. There were no ghost employees, that is, no fictitious employees. That's always the danger here. You want to make sure that you have valid employees receiving a paycheck. So that was the case here. Most of our recommendations in our report had to do with people's duties. So in terms of, people, we noted that a lot of employees in the payroll department had conflicting duties, which could be problematic if, not, supervised. So we'll get into that in more detail. So I want to turn to our first finding on page 6, and that has to do with people or employees making changes to their direct deposits. So the way you want to, process changes to direct deposits when people get paid by direct deposit into their bank is that you want to have it done in a secure method. Usually done in person or done, via fax when an employee makes the request. We noted that the payroll department, they had accepted requests via email. So emails can be spoofed. That is, they could be coming from bad actors. And, if that happens, that could result in fraudulent payments. So we're seeing, this is a trend that we're seeing throughout, the country. People try to spoof emails and try to make false requests to payroll departments to make payment to an unauthorized bank account. So what we're recommending here is that the payroll department revises protocols to ensure that email requests are no longer accepted. They also want to confirm with the employee any changes that are made to banking information, the employee's banking information, just to make sure that, hey, did you make this request? And it's usually done through a phone call or an email. And lastly, I guess long-term, there's a module in Munis where employees should use to make the request in Munis. So that way it's done in the system as opposed to using an email or fax. This would be the most efficient way. And I believe the payroll department is looking into implementing this module in the near future. So moving on to page 7, the next finding on page 8. So findings 2 and findings 3 have to do with system overrides. So in Munis, there are built-in controls where paychecks can't be made to terminated employees or to time cards with no hours and pay rates. So that's a built-in control you have in the system. The only way it can be made is that there are overrides to the system. So we noted that there were overrides in processing payments to employees that that were terminated and time cards with no hours. And they all turned out to be valid. We had the director look into these transactions, but we noted that when they process these transactions, you want to make sure they're legitimate. You want a supervisor to review, and in these instances, we noted that there was no review over these overrides. I guess the risk here is that without any supervisory approval, how do you know these overrides were appropriate? So you just want to make sure that there's a check on whoever's making these overrides to the system. So moving on to finding 4. So as I mentioned in the process flow, a key, I guess, control in the payroll process is approval. So you want to make sure that managers approve of their employees' time. So we noted in some instances where the payroll department and HR department were approving time for employees. So it's not their function to approve a department's time. Managers and supervisors are in the best position to know what their employees worked and leaves that they've taken. So we're recommending that that process be tightened up and by the payroll department sending out an email to all employees delineating roles and responsibilities. Without delineating these clear responsibilities. If you have payroll and HR to continue to approve payrolls, they may not necessarily know whether the time records are accurate. And I believe the payroll department is in the process of making these changes shortly. So moving on to the next finding, finding 5. This has to do with sick and vacation hours maintained in 2 systems. We have, as I mentioned, the system where people record their time. They have hours tracked for sick and vacation hours used. And you also have it also recorded in the city's accounting system, Munis. We noted that these sick and vacation hours didn't necessarily match up for those hours that were taken. This was caused by a system outage for Kronos. I think it happened in 2021. So as a result of, Kronos being locked down due to ransomware, the city and the school department had to process payroll manually. So that was a labor-intensive process. But we noted, during this review that these vacation sick hours didn't match up, and we gave these instances to the payroll department to look at, and they've begun the process to reconcile these discrepancies. So going forward, whenever you have two systems that contain the same information, you want to make sure that they are reconciled to ensure that improper payments or accrual balances exist. So moving on to the next finding. Finding 6A had to do with, we noted for some employees, there were no management approvals for employees. All employees should have their time approved, and without it, time could be manipulated. 6B has to do with user permissions or inappropriate user permissions. We noted a couple of employees that were outside of payroll had access to pay rate changes in the payroll system. So the payroll department should work with IT to lock those permission rights down. And 6C also has to do with responsibilities that were performed by non-payroll employees. We noted, I think HR were removing sign-offs, final sign-offs. So final sign-off should be made only by payroll, and the removal of the approval should be made by the supervisor. So when you remove the final sign-off, that allows that time entry to be changed or edited. And only the supervisor should be able to do that. And with respect to making a change to the actual time card, we recommend that time card be pushed back to the department so that they can fix it. They should be the department fixing their time records as opposed to another department like payroll. In some instances, out of expediency, you'll have to have payroll perform those functions, but in an ideal situation, department should be doing that, making changes to their time records. So moving on to finding 7. This has to do with segregation of duties. So or conflicting duties. So when I talk about segregation of duties here is like, I have the ability to make unauthorized changes to payroll. For example, like if I'm an employee in payroll, I have the ability to process payroll and at the same time to make changes to pay rate. So for example, I could, if I had this ability, I could change if I'm making $50 an hour, I can change my pay rate to $100 an hour and process my own payroll and without anyone knowing any better for it. So you want to try to mitigate this risk by having someone else involved in the process. So finding I want to talk about this aspect of conflicting duties. We noted that a payroll employee that processes payroll had the ability to import pay rate changes. So when they're importing their pay rate changes, they could actually change pay rates if they wanted to. So that function should strictly be done by human resources. Human resources should be the, I guess, the safeguards of any pay rate changes. 7B has to do with an employee making changes to both Kronos and Munis for time edits. Again, that's a conflicting duty. Any changes, as I mentioned, to time record should be done by the employee as opposed to the payroll department. So, but if the payroll department does make a change to a person's time, that employee or department head should be notified of that change. Again, the departments, they should be responsible for monitoring their payroll and improving their payroll. And finding C, 7C, we noted a payroll employee were making a change to their own direct deposit. So employees should not be making changes to their own data. You should have another employee making that change and definitely having this change approved by a supervisor. And lastly, finding 8, 9, and 10 has to do with human resources. So 8 has to do with employees having duplicate ID numbers. So the risk with having duplicate employee numbers is that employee could be paid twice. So every employee should have one unique ID number. And their HR is working and cleaning up their database to just have one ID number for each employee. Finding 9, same issue, name discrepancies. Again, if you have name discrepancies, you have the risk that an employee could be paid twice. So again, it's just cleaning up the database to correct these discrepancies. And finding 10 is you had some active, you had employees that were listed as active, but they were technically not active. Again, you have the risk of these people being paid inappropriately. And that's it for the payroll report. I'll open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Auditor. No, we're also joined by Councilor Whitfield, Councilor Allen, and Councilor Davila. Are there any questions from the council? Hearing none. Auditor, no. We can move on to the next presentation.
Okay, thank you, Angela.
Justin, could I ask one quick question?
You can.
Thanks.
Floor is yours.
Sorry, I got kicked off the Zoom for about 15 minutes, so I didn't hear everything. But I was in my car, so I haven't read the report. But just based on what you said, the recommendations that you're making, is there a plan to implement any of them, or are you looking for us to approve them, et cetera? What has anything been worked out to make those changes? Just what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, we made recommendations, and the payroll department has agreed on making these changes. So our process is that about a year and a half from now, we'll follow up just to make sure those recommendations have been implemented.
Okay, great, thank you.
Are there any further questions from the council? I see Councilor Davila with his hand up.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilor
President.
Davila, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. I couldn't get to my hand on time. Auditor, no, thank you for your presentation. Just have, I think you just might have answered my question. What's the actual timeline you say for these changes to be implemented?
So, well, they're gonna make the change. They've already started making changes,
Yeah.
currently, and the timeframe is, within a year. So we'll follow up in a year and a half to make sure that these changes have been implemented.
All right, now, Auditor, you kind of troubled me a little bit there, seeing the potential, the conflict for payroll and people being able to essentially change their own pay rate if they wish to. Did we identify any potential loss of revenue on this or?
No,
money,
no.
or- Okay,
Well, we didn't identify any malfeasance
the
with
month
this.
business. Okay, all right, thank you, Auditor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Seeing that there are no more hands up in the queue. Auditor, no, you can proceed.
Okay,
Item number,
so I'll stop
One.
sharing this
Two.
document.
My hand is up.
Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to know who Angela Wang is.
It's the Angela one you're thinking about.
Is it?
Good to see you.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, and you?
Good. You look good.
You look good.
Need to catch up.
You, oh my gosh. All right, we used to work together. I was like, is that Angela?
Yeah,
What a
I wanted to say hi, but I'm not used to calling out a council member, so that's why.
So, you work in that department now, in auditing?
Yes, I'm currently the payroll director for the city.
Oh, you are. All
Yes.
right. Congratulations, Angela.
Thank you. Thank
Alright,
you.
good to
If
see
any
you.
questions about your paycheck, call me.
You know I'm gonna call you first. I'm going to your door like, Angela, we know each other.
Yes, yes,
All right, good to
Please.
see you.
yes. Thank you, Yang, for your work and your team's work on this. It's been a great process. Thank you for all council members for having me.
Thank you.
Have a good
We
evening.
appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Auditor, no. Now that we've concluded that reunion, we can proceed.
All right, so I'll go on to the next agenda item. So everyone should see my screen here on the status report on the fiscal year 2023 audit plan. So what our department usually does is update the audit committee on our activities throughout the year. And this is a report on our activities for the first half of the year. So I'll start off with our carryover assignments from the previous fiscal year. So we'll start off with the information technology cybersecurity review at the police department. So that was presented to the audit committee in February of this year in executive session. So that was to assess the cybersecurity protocols at the Springfield Police Department. Then we worked on the all right, I'll move on now. Then we worked on the follow-up review, at City Clerk on their cash handling processes. And that report was presented in February to the audit committee. We had done a review of the athletic fees at Springfield Public Schools, and that report was presented to the school department in November of 2022. We did a follow-up review on the procurement card at Springfield Public Schools, and that report was also presented to Springfield Public Schools in November of 2022. We go back here on the investment. We look at the city's investments on a quarterly basis. This had to be on hold for part of the year last year due to the treasurer's role being in transition. So we plan on picking that review up as soon as these quarterly investments are ready for our review. So there's a city ordinance that internal audit look at the city's investments on a quarterly basis. In the past, we've never had any issues with this review. So moving on, we've completed a student activity review at the school department, and that report was issued in October 22. So what that does is the school department students have student activity funds. So and the school department has to be stewards of these funds, and Mass General Laws requires that these funds be reviewed or audited annually. We do the review every 2 years, or every year for 2 years, and in the third year we have our external auditors do the review, and that's all in accordance with Mass General Laws. We have in process the investigation of the alleged contract violation at the golf courses. So we expect that I guess some movement in that investigation to proceed sometime this year. I think that's going to be adjudicated sometime this year. Ongoing assignments, as I mentioned, we continue to review quarterly investments for the city. We maintain the city's fraud hotline. So for the 6 months ended December 31st, 2022, we had 6 allegations. All of them have been closed without any further action. We ensure the external financial statements for the cities is completed. So Powers and Sullivan has completed their audit of the financial statements for June 30th, 2022, and we expect them to present the results of their audit sometime this spring. So I'll be requesting an audit committee meeting in the coming weeks to present that along with our FY24 audit plan. So we also have on our plate to look at the student activities for the following year, FY23. So we're going to start on that later this spring or early summer. New assignments. The stuff that's on the audit plan for FY23 was included fleet maintenance. So that was presented to the audit committee in December of 2022. Right now, we are in the process of reviewing overtime. It's just the process of how overtime is, or the internal controls over overtime. We are in the process of reviewing the cash handling protocols at CY Arena. That's the skating rink at Forest Park. They generate revenues for the city for public skate and rink rentals. We are in the process of auditing facility maintenance, both at the city and at the school department. And we have some follow-up reviews that we're doing. We're looking at follow-up reviews at TJO, the health department. We're looking at bulk stickers at DPW and a couple of programs that we reviewed a couple of years ago relating to BOT, bankable overtime, and the Quinn program. We have yet to start building and code enforcement audit. We expect to start that sometime in May. And we are pushing off into the next fiscal year audit plan, the review of the transportation contract at Springfield Public Schools, inventory management at housing. That's going to be done by our external auditors, and a cybersecurity review at the city of Springfield. So those are our activities. Any questions?
So I appreciate the update, Auditor No. A couple questions on my end. Were all of these audits that have been completed reviewed by our audit committee, especially as they relate to the school department? Or
no, not necessarily. I usually meet with the school department and a member of the finance committee of the schools committee.
Okay. Is it possible to send the audit committee the results of the audits that are on this list
Sure. For the school department, yes, I'll do that.
for the school department? That would be great to know. And then code enforcement. Why the delay on code enforcement?
Well, we're in the process of wrapping up these audits that we have in process. Then, they're next on the hit list. So but we will get to them in this fiscal year.
Okay. And for the counselors that want to have some input in terms of what the 2024 audit may look like, or yearly audit or yearly proposed audit may look like, is it possible for us to have another meeting in advance of that, or has it always been the protocol for you to present the plan, and then if you see something that is brought up that is so glaring that you want to do an audit on it, then you will? I mean, how does that work, order to know?
So we're always open for suggestions from anyone, city council, audit committee, management, the public, on items that they would like us to review. Then it's included in our audit universe. And basically, our universe is just all the departments and programs that is subject to an audit. And we do a risk assessment on those programs and departments to see which areas poses the most risk to the city. Then from there, it gets put on our annual audit plan. So if there's something that you would like to see, please send me an email and I'll consider it. Send me your concerns. Or if you have a specific allegation that you would like us to investigate, send that to me as well. All allegations of malfeasance we look into, and we conduct an investigation if there is if we can substantiate the allegation.
Got it. So I know it's not on the agenda, but just to reiterate something that was discussed at the last meeting, I know we talked about the raises and the way in which and the process in which those are given out through each department. So that certainly is still high on the radar. And then, if anything else comes to mind, I'll certainly send you an email.
Yeah.
Any other counselors? Counselor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Auditor, would you mind, do you think I quite got what you were saying? You talked about the bulk items. Would you mind just going down with that again?
Excuse me?
You talked about the bulk ticket items?
Yes, we're going to do a follow-up on the bulk sticker at DPW. We had initially done that audit a couple of years ago and made recommendations. So we're going to follow up just to make sure that our recommendations have been implemented.
Would you happen to know what those recommendations are?
I think one of the key recommendations is making sure that those bulk sticker tickets are reconciled. So they issue the stickers to Big Y and to the clerk's office, and they should monitor the actual usage of those stickers they have on hand, and actually go out to these departments and businesses to see their processes to ensure these bulk stickers are safeguarded.
Right. Auditor, one of the things that I will highly recommend to you, sir, because honestly, it makes no sense to me. I've been advocating for this since I got in the council, is the ability to expand the accessibility of the bulk item tickets throughout the city. As we all know, those bulk item stickers, the yellow stickers, for those that may or may not know what they are only available at Big Y. And I've gotten a lot of complaints, a lot of questions. Why do I have to for example, here in Forest Park, why do I have to go to East Low Meadow to get my bulk sticker when I live here in Springfield? It's a great question. I have, if I'm not mistaken, Auditor, I do believe the DPW has mentioned to us that we're losing money on the current price point with the ball stickers. Although by no means I'm saying that we should increase the price. I'm saying that by expanding the accessibility of the ball stickers will recapture some of the revenue and also help with the litter issues. That was one of the things that recently we pointed out in the litter report that I commissioned a couple close to a month ago. That's one of the recommendations to look at. So I would urge you, my good sir, with all the passion and emotion in the world, to look at that, because we need those ball stickers here in the city of Springfield. I know you can get them at Tapley, and then you can get them City Hall. There's a new Big Y opening up in downtown. But again, it should be in every bodega, CVS, Walgreens. It should be here in the city of Springfield. And I'm a little concerned. Why are we still sticking with this plan if, from what I've been told from DPW, if I'm not mistaken, we're losing money? Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Whitfield, I see you have your hand raised. Or you know what, Councilor, no, did you want to respond to that?
Well,
At all?
I don't have the report. I don't have the report in front of me, the recommendations that we had made, but
Okay.
I will, when I'm doing this follow-up, I will circle back with Director Signoli about expanding the program. I think if my memory serves, he recalls that it's difficult to expand the program because a lot of vendors do not want to, I guess, espouse selling bulk stickers. I think that was part of the issue. But again, I will follow up to make this issue, make him aware of this issue as conveyed by Councilor Davila.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, just a quick response to Auditor.
Right.
I understand, Auditor, what we're saying that's been said before. And with all the humility and respect in the world, I see this as a monopoly on bulk stickers. Listen, at the very end, it should be available at every Big Y, Stop and Shop in the city, CVS, Walgreens. We could do this. I just don't understand why Big Y only has a monopoly of it. Thank you. I'm sure you will do your due diligence, Auditor, and I thank you for it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. And to that point, I'd also love to know exactly how much Big Y makes off of selling these bulk stickers, but definitely a discussion for another day. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to go back to the building and code enforcement audit. It says determine if the internal control system for permitting and inspection, something or other, data management. What exactly is that audit about?
It's a performance audit of the building code and enforcement, just making sure they have the appropriate policies in place to meet their mission. Their core function is to issue permits, inspect buildings. So without I don't know. I guess too much detail about the department.
I think that what I'm looking to hear is how are the inspections assigned? Because from some of the feedback we get from the residents, it's like some areas are inspected more than others. Feels like they're targeted. So I'm guessing what the process you're looking at.
We're looking at the whole process. It's a performance audit, and so we're going to take a look at the risks based upon when we look at their budget, any data points they have. We'll interview management, and if you have specific concerns about their processes, I welcome you to forward them to me, so I could assess the risk for that particular issue.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have my own issue, but I'll talk to you about it offline.
Okay. All right.
All right.
But it is a performance audit, and we are going to look at the whole department.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Whitfield. Are there any other questions from the council? Seeing none. Tim, are you all set? I know sometimes you're a little slow to the draw on the phone.
Yeah, I'm all set.
All right. All right. All right, everyone.
Right,
Have
it's
a wonderful
beautiful day.
Yes. Order to know.
My doorway
thank you.
working.
Love it. All right, you all have a great afternoon. Thank you, Auditor.
Thank
Null.
you. Have a great
Thank you.
day. Thanks. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you. Good
Thank
day.
you, Auditor. No.